Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. My name's Gary Williams and today, well, we've got a special for any of you singers, musicians out there who would love to be performing at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, because I'm sitting with Paul Pace, who is the booker for Ronnie Scott's. Welcome to Cabaret Secrets, Paul.
Hello Gary, good to see you.
So are you the booker or a booker?
No, I'm a booker. I'm part of a team of 5 and we discuss weekly. We have weekly meetings, but we have an ongoing dialogue about who to book for the club.
And tell me a little bit about Ronnie Scott. I mean, we know it's a famous jazz club, but it's got quite a pedigree, hasn't it? Who's performed here over the years?
Well, my history with Ronnie's goes back to 1972, and I was very young, of course. But in my time, I saw probably the giants who walked the earth at the time, and those included Dizzy Gillespie, Horace Silver, Art Blakey, Billy Eckstine. I didn't get to see Sarah Vaughan here. I saw her elsewhere, but lots of people. Gosh, you know, I saw so many. It's hard to bring them to mind, but certainly an embarrassment of riches. And then in recent years, we've had George Duke, Cal Jarreau, George Benson, lots of very good people.
Are there still those kind of, you know, those big names? Are they sort of around today? Is there a new generation that's just as talented as Dizzy Gillespie and Sarah Vaughan?
Not quite the same type of performers. Those musicians came up through an era where showmanship was key to them actually maintaining a living and actually, you know, going around the world performing all the clubs and the concert halls. So it isn't quite like that. There are those people still around. I mean, George Benson obviously is still around, and Al Jarreau that I mentioned earlier. The younger performers, you got Jane Monheit, I guess, and Diane Reeves. Some of the singers are also very good showmen. Vincent Herring, good alto sax player, who's very good with putting on the show. Then you struggle a bit with the musicians, because quite often they come over and perform their music and say very little to the audience. Prime example of that is Roy Hargrove, the trumpet player. We had him recently, and I think he mentioned the names of the band at the end of the show and said, "We love you," and that was it. Off he went, which is a shame, because people pay good money to come to Ronnie Scott's, and I think they want more. I think they want to be more included in the story of the music and where the music came from and the stories behind the numbers they play or sing.
Do you think it sometimes can be considered in the jazz world as almost a bad thing to sort of entertain the audience, to tell a joke, to sort of, you know, do you think that they might be accused of being a bit cabaret, which seems to be in the jazz world, seems to be a bit of a dirty word? I mean, do you think it sort of keeps them more cool if they don't say anything?
I think you have something there. There's often a resistance to the word cabaret being used, and I'm not quite sure why there is, because cabaret to me can cover a whole bunch of things that are very positive. I mean, if you look at Annie Ross, for example, she's definitely a jazz musician, but she's also a very good cabaret artist in terms that she performs a show, talks to the audience, you feel like you're in her living room when you go and see her play, and therefore you're drawn into the music. So I don't really see what the problem is, but I know that it has been something traditionally in jazz, and mainly, I guess, with instrumentalists, but also with singers as well, where they're not really keen on being termed cabaret artists.
But it's interesting. I mean, you value showmanship here. You think it brings something to the show, and that you think that the people here value it as well. So you're more inclined to book somebody that can bring a little bit of shape to a show, can really entertain, as well as be technically brilliant at what they do.
Yes, I think the technical aspects are almost a given. You know, if they're going to play at Ronnie Scott's, they have to be master of their instrument. So I don't think that's a question. It's actually the whole thing. It's more than that. And, you know, there are people that are highly considered in the jazz world that we haven't booked again because, as I've said before, they don't particularly engage with the audience. And that's a great shame.
Where do you balance the level of artists, sort of how hardcore jazz they are or how mainstream they are? Because you've got a worldwide reputation and people look to Ronnie's as a sort of a standard bearer for jazz. But jazz can cover, you know, anything from Glenn Miller upwards, can't it? I mean, it's a wide, it can have a very wide definition.
We have a fairly broad cathedral of jazz here at Ronnie Scott's, but if we go too left field, we can lose our core audience. Our core audience are generally fairly conservative. And then we do try and push the envelope a bit. And when we have done that, we've noticed that a fall off in numbers, if it is too improvisational, I suppose. If there's more improvisation than there is structure and melody, then it can lose some of the audience. And there are other venues better suited for that. Cafe Otto, for example, over in Dalston, does present avant-garde jazz very well. And we do it occasionally, but they have to be a very big name. They have to be maybe the calibre of Cecil Taylor, who has played here in Ronnie and Pete's day, and Ornette Coleman, people like that. There's Matthew Shipp, who operates in New York. That's probably going to be too left field for us, which is a shame, because I personally love some of that music, and I enjoy going to see a wide variety of jazz. And then on the other side of the coin, if we go to Dixieland, for example, during the week, then that's not really what Ronnie Scott's is about. And this is what Pete and Ronnie, who are modern jazz fans in terms of post-war jazz, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, that kind of stuff, that's where the grain of the club was created. So, for example, our Sunday lunches tend to be very mainstream and very vocal-orientated, or else we go towards traditional jazz, Dixieland, if you like. And then the weekdays are mostly contemporary jazz. It could be vocal or instrumental. And we have to book a certain number of big names that are going to, pay the bills and fill the club and so on. So
is there any kind of policy of, obviously it's a commercial venture, but is there any kind of policy of, look, we're going to have this slightly avant-garde thing, we know it's not going to fill the place, but we feel we've got a duty to do that as Ronnie Scott's? Or is it really just, we need people that are going to fill the club every night?
We try and keep some kind of artistic integrity by being inclusive, and particularly of the UK scene. If you look at some of the UK bands operating in contemporary jazz, a lot of them would be considered left field by the public. The public generally come along would have difficulty getting a foothold on the music. So when we put those on, we do it occasionally. It is really to try and to be inclusive and to represent the scene in its entirety.
So for singers like me in the sort of Sinatra, mainstream, just great American songbook, nice standards, Sunday afternoons is really the slot, isn't it?
I would say, I think that suits the audience as well as the booking policy of the club. If we were to, say, have that permeate into the evening slots, then I think the character of the club would change beyond recognition.
Get a lot of tourists in on a Sunday afternoon? Does the audience change?
It's fairly family-orientated, I think. I've been to a few. I booked the Sunday lunches, but I'm not able to come to all of them. And they tend to be across the ages, which is quite nice, because these are the people who don't generally come to the evening shows. And I think it's got to be something that will relate to all the family, rather than, a particular age demographic.
So someone listening to this would love to be playing at Ronnie Scott's. Let's say they're kind of what I do. They want to be doing Sunday afternoons. How do they get in touch? What's the procedure to try and get a gig?
I would suggest that it's better to actually learn your craft and do the circuit first before approaching Ronnie Scott's. I think that's the first thing. We do get a lot of people coming straight to Ronnie's thinking they're going to play here. And quite often it's a knee-jerk reaction by their friends, or it's about the only thing they know when somebody mentions the word jazz. Ronnie Scott's, there you go and play there. Oh, you should play there.
Yeah. So going straight to the Royal Albert Hall, isn't it?
Right,
So
exactly.
going straight to the top.
That's right. So that's the first thing. And I would say that having, if I'm to blow my own trumpet, having been around on the scene 40 years, maybe or more, I know who's around. I know who's around who's good. And generally they do come to the surface, with one or two exceptions. I've had some surprise of people who have come to me and they're very good, or else have been recommended by people I respect. But generally, they are already on the scene, and like the likes of you, Gary, who've been around for one or two
almost
years.
as long as you.
Almost. And I did know about you at your Peach on the Park shows and so on. And
so that's interesting, because we hadn't been introduced, we hadn't spoken, but you, just from you doing things at Peach on the Park or the Pheasantry or Pizza Express, just around and about for years, you just sort of, there's a name, okay, I wonder what he's up to, and maybe you hear a few words or something, and so then when maybe 5-10 years after you've started to see the name around that I've got in touch, that I remember you were quite receptive when I called you, and you were like, oh yeah, oh hi, yeah. You sort of there was some kind of recognition there, and that's what you're talking about with getting in on the scene, just doing all of the venues, and you're gonna just become you're gonna get a level of awareness, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's a singer called Shane Hampshire. You know, he's one of the younger singers, and he's very good. You know, and he's also been learning his craft and singing with the Ronnie Scott's Jazz Orchestra and various other big bands around the town and so on. And he approached me in a very sort of calm manner, which I think is also very important. You don't want to put people off. And if you have a likability about you, I mean, it's not something you work at particularly, but you just lay off the hard sell, because that's really going to put people off.
Yeah.
You know, bookers I imagine other bookers as well don't react to it kindly.
Are there sort of jam sessions here at Ronnie Scott's where people can get up that perhaps haven't quite been around as long as you would like, but that that can sing, that can hold a tune, that they can sort of get up and sing something with the band?
Well, we don't have this at Ronnie Scott's because we have a jam session here on a Wednesday, but it's mainly instrumental. And our late shows as well, where we have invited guests, are instrumentalists, because you might know that singers are very proactive and pushing themselves forward. And those slots at Ronnie's could well become singers' nights if you're not careful.
Yes.
However, if I could plug the other gig,
I want you to plug the other gig.
The other one, where I do get to see people in the Raw and doing a show, that's at the Spice of Life. So I've been doing that in parallel to Ronnie Scott's, and I've been there 16 years now. And
this is an open mic night that you run?
Well, open mic for 2 of the nights each month. And generally it's the first Wednesday of the month and maybe the third Wednesday of the month as well. And there's a house trio there. It's usually Rick Simpson, very fine young pianist. And we have an up-and-coming person doing the first set, and then someone who's is better established doing the main set, and then we have an open mic in the third set. So that's an ideal opportunity to actually get involved for me as well, to see what you like. And it's a less... what's the word?
It's more informal, isn't it?
More informal environment, that's right.
Yeah, I've been there, and it is, like a lot of open mic, it's a very friendly environment, because to people that perhaps haven't done it before, it can be very intimidating, and if they know the booker's in, it can be scary, but everybody's, including you, is very welcoming, very warm, and it's for anybody listening to this, God, I wish I'd known about it 20 years ago, because it's an incredible opportunity, not only to do basically a showcase with very minimal effort. You haven't got to hire a room, you haven't got to hire a band or go to any effort to sort of fill a room up to get a bit of an audience. It's already there. You just show up, and maybe you'll have to turn up 1 or 2, 3 weeks or something. Sometimes it gets quite busy, right? You might not make the grade, but if you keep turning up and enjoying it, maybe I would recommend turning up once and just watching it, just seeing how it all works.
Absolutely.
Come back another time and put your name on the list and have your music prepared. But to sing also with, top-notch musicians and not just a pianist, but a trio as well. It's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. And those that do actually progress understand that as well, and they come well prepared. And they may come, first of all, as you say, as part of the audience, which is fair enough. And I
think it's advisable just to get a feel for, because you don't want to blow it, do you? You don't want to get up there and be a bit nervous and just sort of start doing the wrong thing. I don't know. Come along once or twice and get a feel for what people are doing and what seems to work.
Absolutely. It's often the way actually to watch other people perform and feel the room. We've had people like Marlene Verplank down there and Daryl Sherman. They're masters at what they do.
Absolutely.
And those are the people to come and see, and then, maybe learn something from them, and then come yourself for an open mic, but, bring your music along for one number that you're really on top of. Don't use it as an experiment. Bring something, you do know the words, you've got the charts written clearly for the musicians.
In the right key.
In the right key.
With any sort of intros and out. It's got to be clear, right?
Yes.
Because you're just sticking it straight in front of the guys and they're sight reading it. So there's no time to go, I'm going to cut this out, or can you do a little bit here? There's no time.
And it goes like this,
That's right, yeah.
And you pursue, and it's so boring for the audience as well. Just think about the audience. Think about the audience all the time.
Yes.
They've come to see something, and they just hate sitting around for 2 minutes while you're explaining your life story and trying to you're really not prepared.
Yeah. In an open mic situation, do you like it if people say anything at all? I mean, do you like it if they come and say, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm blah 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 blah," and just a little line, or do you like it if they don't say anything, or what if they tell an anecdote or a joke, or I mean, what works?
Well, I think that they need to be themselves. Sometimes you can say hello, and this song is called that, and it's by so and so, and do the song, if that's what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with telling a joke or an anecdote, then I wouldn't suggest you do it.
Yes.
And maybe you work out.
That's good advice.
You maybe do it off the mic somewhere. You practice that side of thing. But connecting with the audience, actually greeting the audience is very good.
Yes.
If you go up there and just keep it very brief. Don't ramble. I mean, I've had somebody up and coming musician. I won't mention his name, and I was thinking of booking him for these Ronnie Scott's, for example, and it was unfortunate. He did go on a lot, and it was. I thought.
Was it me? You can tell me.
Wasn't you, Gary? No. Don't worry.
You nearly got the old shepherd's
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah, so it can work both ways. I mean,
Yes,
so you
it can.
do need. I mean, I think anybody coming along should really treat it as a serious showcase, knowing that you're going to be there. Are you always there?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, with one or two exceptions. I mean, last Wednesday I had an annual general meeting where I live, and that's the only if I have a doctor's appointment or something like that. But otherwise, I'll be there every.
But you're going to be there.
Yeah.
And, one of the 5 that books Ronnie Scott's is going to be there watching you. An audience. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So let's say we've been working the scene a little while. We've done a few of the open mics, and that's a great way for you to be aware of somebody just by turning up to the open mics. Particularly if it goes on for a while. If every month or two, you see the same people, and they just say hi and introduce themselves. They don't need to, like you say, be all over you saying, "Oh, I'd love a gig, and here's my demo." Shoving that into your hand. They just introduce themselves because their performance will speak for themselves. And I suppose if they're really good and stand out, you're going to want to talk to them.
Absolutely. That's often the best way. The best way is not to, say, harass me, for want of a better word, just to perform, because I will always go up to them and say, "I like what you do," and then they may either sit in and do a one number, then I'll bring them back to do a mini set, and then they'll do the main set. It'll be steps, a progression going on, and also there's a lot of difference between doing one number and doing 3 numbers, and then doing 8 numbers, doing the whole show.
So do you like it if people send you a video, a little YouTube link, or do you like it when people, perhaps if somebody did the open mic and it went well and they met you and seemed to get along all right, and say if I did that and I said to you, well, shall I send you, email you some stuff? Do you like that if people send you like a show reel or a bio or photos or?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. It shows they're serious, so long as it's kept fairly brief. I don't want a file-heavy item coming into my inbox. I'd rather have just 1 or 2 very good pieces of footage.
How long?
Done professionally. 3 minutes.
Right. And do you want that to show them talking as well? A little bit of,
Yes.
because some people like a show reel to be just sort of a whole song. They want to see the whole, beginning, middle, the end, and maybe a little link. Some people like to see sort of lots of songs, but say just 10 or 20 seconds of each song with a joke in the middle or a little hello. What works for you?
I think all of those are valid, so long as they hold your interest and it's the best of what they can do. And again, if it's shot professionally, it makes a world of difference rather than a shaky camera phone at a gig.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing to watch.
Do you ever go to other people's gigs if say if we'd met and we seem to be getting along well, I think, well, I might be able to get a gig there. If I was doing something at the Pheasantry or Crazy Cox or the Pizza Express, is there any point in inviting you? Do you ever pop along to these things to have a look?
I do, time permitting. It is very difficult for me because I'm here 5 days and some nights at Ronnie Scott's, 2 nights at the Spice of Life. I do Wednesday and Thursday there. I try and get out Monday, Tuesday, possibly Friday, and maybe at the weekends. But I find my energy levels quite depleted on either side of those 2 jobs. It's like doing 2 full-time jobs, really. So I do my best to try and hear other people out of context, and I do go over to Bull's Head, for example, just to enjoy the music. I go there on a blues night, and then Art Thiemann, who's a fantastic tenor saxophonist, go and see him there. And then I'll drop over to the Pizza Express sometimes to hear people.
And this thing about being around on the scene is good, isn't it? Because if you're around on the scene and you're working with different people and you're singing with different bands or musicians, and somebody may say, well, come in and sit in and just sing a tune with us. If they're doing that for some years, the chances are you are going to be sitting in, even if it's not at Ronnie Scott's, you're going to just see them somewhere, just do a song here and there. It all helps, doesn't it?
It does. You build up a shorthand for finding out who's good and who isn't. You know, you can actually grab half a minute of a set and get some idea whether they make the grade or not. You know, I think it's the more you listen, the more experience you get.
Do you like dealing with agents, or do you prefer to deal with the act direct?
I personally prefer to deal with the act direct if they're as nice as you. It varies. You know, some agents know the score, and it's very easy dealing with them. There's a handful of agents who don't who understand both sides, and I think that's what it is.
Yeah, because you'll hear a lot of acts will say, I'm not getting what my agent's rubbish, I need a better agent. But from what it sounds to me, from what you're telling me, that just the act themselves, being good, being around, being on the scene, getting seen by you, chatting to you at the Spice of Life, having a pint with you, and just being there, that's really a very sort of natural, organic way, rather than, you know, posting a demo pack and then trying to get you on the phone cold. I mean, you're not going to take those calls, are you?
No, you're right. In fact, Ronnie's, we deal mostly with agents, but at the Spice of Life, it's generally face-to-face, directly with the artist. And there have been one or two occasions where I've dealt with agents or managers and they don't get it. And then, you know, they send through a contract because it's pretty much done on gentleman's agreement.
Which is just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's a pity it's not done like that more often.
I know. I mean, just an email confirmation.
Just so we know the facts.
That's right. This is the deal, and timings and so on. Yeah. But when I was presented with a contract, you know, a long contract, I thought this is just way out of proportion for what the gig's about.
To read it, can you?
Exactly not.
You don't care what colour M&Ms they want.
No.
Thanks for talking to us today. It's really helpful. I appreciate it very much.
Pleasure. Real pleasure. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.